Kan dấu lang ram noa mi chol pial runi yame. Hello telung rua la darang kan lena. Per quang ching chang zaya kan choi lai moye. Ôi môi chuang mang kan lena dấu lang ram noa. I môi em kan lena dấu lang phía tuy thiang kan dona. Lang tin a thing tin zar môi lệ râu mê azam kara. Der lang tin chang zai kan choi lai
To the third national consultation on the of the coalition, National Coalition for SCP TSP. On behalf of all of you, I'd like to specially extend welcome to Sri K. Raju, who has been the primary mover of SCP TSP legislation in the country when he was with the NAC. And many of you know that he has been the key architect of the legislation in AP. The purpose of this meeting today is to focus on two aspects. I will share that, many of you already know, but I'll share that a little later. One, we are looking at within the 40 days that is there from now till around 7th December when the Parliament opens. We are going to ensure that how we are going to take steps to see that the bill is placed before the Parliament. SCP TSP stronger than the policy that is existing today. I think that's the one of the main things that we are requesting, sir. And in the draft that has been corrected, 2 out of the 3. One is infrastructure not to be allowed. I think it has come already in the Ministry of Social Justice. And also the general schemes not to be accounted as either SCP or TSP. Our second demand is together with SCP, TSP should come. And there have been many leaders of the tribal communities who have been engaging. Third main concern, sir, is the women's concerns in the legislation have not been sufficiently addressed. And the final one, accountability aspects to be strengthened, because without accountability, an act is as good as the policy that was existing earlier. So these are the main concerns that we are having, and we are also requesting that in all the states as well as the national level, we begin with the existing policy to see that the allocations in the current budgets are not lost. These are the primary things. Once the act comes, sir, I think in a very wide way, first it has to be communicated to the community and see how the participation of the community in designing and in ensuring that their concerns are taken into the schemes designing initially and also in the social audits.
My reflections on the backdrop, the context of this subject are, though we have this policy, SCP initially later renamed as SCSP, TSP, for more than 3 decades, all the planners, political executives are very clearly aware that effective implementation of this policy is a sure way of securing inclusive growth, about which everyone is speaking. There is no dissonance on this ideal of achieving inclusive growth, and everyone knows that effective implementation of SCSP ensures that inclusive growth happens. There has been no impact on the ground because those who have formulated the policies, those who have taken the responsibility to implement the policies are not serious. the SC/ST legislatures were taken for a ride by the government and certain provisions were inserted to dilute the SC/ST TSP by nearly 50%. Unless you do something more than what is being done, you can't call it as a SC/ST TSP. But AP bill has given a statutory status to this kind of a arithmetic, this kind of a accounting exercise by permitting the general schemes to be accounted for to the extent it benefited SC/STs. That is one failure. Public services are provided cannot be accounted for under SC/ST TSP. Why? Because in Andhra Pradesh we have found that the investment that is provided for a general hospital, for a PSC, where everybody is able to access health services, that also is shown under SC/ST, and the officers were saying that they will count the patients knowing their caste. It was ridiculous. The agenda points for the civil society, apart from the unmet challenges which highlighted, I am sure it is a long drawn process. We need to continuously engage in educating, in kind of a sensitizing the ministries, departments, state governments. It's a continuous process. I am sure all of you stay focused on that.
It really coincides with some of the things that we have set out, the core group has set out as draft discussion for the action forward. So thank you very much, and we look forward. Can we have quick questions?
Within this, I'm thinking of Mizoram, my home state again. When I look at the minority communities, and then certainly development has not reached, how it has been functioning is nothing more than or less than. It's all the same. Only few people are getting the privileges. The rural, poor, ethnic minorities are more and more pushed to the corner. So there is no chance.
When we talk about the SCP TSP under one bill, and there is some kind of a negative response from the Minister of the Tribal Affairs, I just want to know what was that reason they have set why they did not want.
One, you mentioned that general schemes like schools cannot be accounted under the SCP TSP. But if a school is located in a Dalit habitation, or like 70% of children come from Dalit habitation, or anything of those services, can it be accounted, is one clarification. And the second angle is, like you also mentioned, institutional mechanisms. What is your advice on how we can actually track institutional mechanisms and personnel which are supposed to be within the institutional mechanisms? Is there a way that we can track that? A third point, just, is there a special provision for children and youth within the new policy, within the new legislation?
पर स्पेसिफिकली इसमें जेंडर एस्पेक्ट्स जो है, जेंडर की जो बात है वो कम आया है, उस पे भी बात होनी और स्पष्ट रूप से होनी ज़रूरी है.
In preparing the plans covering the scheduled tribes in the 5th schedule areas as well as 6th schedule areas, and then they can invest more on the schemes benefiting the Northeastern states. So I see it as a great opportunity for the Northeastern states to access more funding if the SCSP TSP, particularly TSP fund is set aside. Equity not only in terms of various social groups, equity with reference to children and women also is a overarching principle. So I think SCSP TSP plans, in my opinion, should be model plans to address equity issues. That is where we have to really work. That means the plan that is touted as a SCSP or a TSP plan should pass through the filter of a few questions, whether these schemes are taking care of the most marginalized sections. But in the planning commission, there is a separate division for PPP projects. Whole lot of knowledge base is developed, whole lot of expertise is developed, whole lot of institutional mechanisms to promote PPP across the countries. So in a clockwork precision, PPP projects get grounded and completed. That kind of a investment in institutions and knowledge base has not happened in case of SCSP and TSP. That is the point I was mentioning. Even in the school, something extra that needs to be done. Why to talk of anything different? Just to deal with the discrimination in every school, whole lot of effort has to happen. Teachers have to be trained how to deal with the discrimination, how to first of all acknowledge that there is a discrimination in the school, so that investment can go under SCSP. So ministry has now realized that it makes much greater sense joining with the SCSP. Hopefully they will join, but at the same time the tribal specific issues need to be addressed, which Ministry of Tribal Affairs can address through various rules, because tribals need different kind of schemes. We cannot bracket tribal schemes with SCSP. Tribals need different institutional arrangements. The kind of a focus in tribal area is different. So that can still be maintained. So ministry is now clear that this act is primarily about generic framework. They can also join. They are
set up. Then with the lots of the infrastructure, then we may not actually succeed in this food step. And looking at SCP and TSP, I don't know whether it is feasible or not. I'm just clicking in my mind to actually monitor on this. Is there any provisions to actually set up a special commission on this?
Deep concern and the serious challenge of addressing social equity within SEs and SDs itself. But already one of our colleague here has raised this issue of, I think perhaps you will agree that within the SE and SDs, the rock bottom and most rock bottom will be the SC and ST women, and again within those social groups also. What could be our specific asks from this legislation? Because if we are going to see a period of say 5, 10, 15 years after this legislation,
what could be the resistance factors, and from which quarters can they come up when the bill is being introduced? What could be the resistance factors, and from which quarters they may come up, so that we are prepared to be able to do the lobbying work in a very adequate manner?
And second thing, with regard to the Andhra Pradesh thing, sir, we are trying to articulate the rules for the legislation.
कि खास ख्याल रखा जाए कि अगर ये बिल पास होने जा रहा है तो इसमें प्रोविजन होना चाहिए कि वो जम्मू कश्मीर के लिए भी लागू हो.
Is when the central legislation will come out, what will happen to the state legislations which are on the way, or like Andhra which is already there?
और SC/ST के है, तो ये जो कानून में जो योजनाएं या जो कानून बन रहा है वह इन लोगों के लिए कितना सरल होगा, जो इन लोगों को लाभ पहुंचाएगा, इसकी जानकारी हमें इसका होना चाहिए, और आखिरी छोर के व्यक्ति को जो लाभ है वह इन्हें मिले, ऐसा कानून में पारदर्शिता और सरलीकरण होना चाहिए.
In the problem of allocation, spending, diversion, and the allowing it to lapse, but in the legislation, at least in Andhra Pradesh, which has come now, this legislation does not take these things seriously, because the whole thing has come because of these 4 issues.
Non-discriminatory and other things like that. So that people should be in the agency. That is one point. Another thing is in the formation of the policy and the implementation, the role of the civil society missing totally. When we are pushing the agenda, but we are coming out in the implement process.
The SC Commission and ST Commission to bring an official status report. What is exactly the social gap vis-a-vis with the Dalit and vis-a-vis with the Adivasi, so that that report be discussed in the parliament. That could be the basis in which the whole resource allocation could be discussed.
There is no accountability for any department to show, as you are mentioning that, except rural development, only what they are doing, social welfare, what they are doing. Others does not have any guidance how to make programs for the SCP or TSP.
क्या ये बिल में हम ऐसे प्रपोज कर रहे हैं कि वहाँ पे एक फंड एक्ट के तहत हो, जहाँ पे क्लियरली मालूम हो, जैसे EGS एक्ट के तहत में EGS फंड ही होता है.
All the plans and budget should be approved by the Gram Sabhas. Even after implementing also, the payments should be approved by the Gram Sabha. I think that will be the best way to have control by the communities.
तो हम ये कैसे इंश्योर करेंगे मॉनिटरिंग और आउटकम का? इस कानून में कोई इस तरह का कोई प्रोविजन हम ला रहे हैं क्या?
और टोटल पैसा डाइवर्सन करके ये 4 मुद्दे पर आवास की भूमि, जोत की भूमि, शिक्षा और स्वरोजगार, और ये चारों बिंदु पर जो है अवेयरनेस की भी पैसा उसमें दिया जाए, तो अगर शायद ऐसा हो तो बिहार जो है आगे आ सकता है। जय भीम साथियों।
Comprehensive, ensuring quality of life, planning, participation, reviewing, monitoring constantly done, and improving periodically towards empowering the people with their entitlements, because they are the indigenous people, both STs and SCs.
पिछले कुछ 9 सालों में अच्छे से एक्ट बने हैं और आदिवासी और दलितों के लिए भी, लेकिन उनमें ये है कि वो जब बनते हैं तो उसकी जो स्पिरिट होती है एक्ट की, उसके प्रीएम्बल में आ जाती है, उस स्पिरिट के अकॉर्डिंग फील्ड पे वो चीज़ पहुंचती नहीं है।
I just wanted to know what will happen. Actually अभी भी हमारा जो स्पेशल पैकेजेस है फॉर कुछ एरिया के लिए, और there are certain special provision for the area or for the state that is coming under Schedule 5 and Schedule 6. वो एक्ट बनने के बाद what will happen to that?
So it's just a query, because if we really wanted to bridge the gap, means the quality education is very important and the quality of education is very poor, where we can make this kind of actual allocation.
मेरा प्रश्न नहीं है, सुझाव है कि जो पॉलिसी एक बार बनी और वो लोगों के हित में नहीं रही, तो उसमें पॉलिसी बदलाव के लिए भी कुछ प्रावधान हो। उदाहरण के लिए जैसा एनआरजीए में पहले जो कानून बना था, उसमें अरबों रुपया देश का खर्च हुआ, लेकिन जॉब कार्ड को लेके कि मृत्यु हुआ व्यक्ति भी जॉब कार्ड का जो वेजेस है वो लेता था।
Huge funds are getting lapsed, going and sitting in NLCPR, for which there is a separate program. Similarly, for SC, SP and TSP also same thing will happen. That the attempt would be to implement the same schemes, then really understanding what more needs to be done to accelerate the progress. So that challenge still remains. So a lot of lessons we can learn from the way the Northeastern development policy has been diluted by the ministries. SASP TSP is a good instrument to address the inequities within the SC groups, inequities persisting with the Dalit women. So responding to the question our colleague has asked, we are at a point of time in the history where huge resources are likely to become available, and you must go with a slogan, "Hamara paisa, hamara haath mein." That kind of slogan you must go, and Dalit women organizations should be able to redefine the discourse on the development. In Andhra Pradesh, I was asking an officer who is saying, yes, SASP is addressing the equity. I asked one simple question: is there any scheme that you have invested more money under SCP for Devadasis? Among the women, most marginalized section, there are hundreds and thousands in Andhra Pradesh, but not even a single spy is additionally earmarked for them even after SASP. So that clearly shows that this whole idea of equity is not taken seriously. We should list out certain rights. Right to homestead, right to livelihood, right to work, right to education. If we are able to define these rights for scheduled caste, then it will be like MGNREGS. That will make all the difference. I tend to agree with your view, but whole lot of work has to happen. The departments have to hold consultations with the people at the grassroots level and facilitate these plans to come. So that window of having the Grama Sabhas to the planning is very much there, even in the AP Act as well as in the central legislation. So there will be a lot of resistance from the bureaucracy, because by earmarking certain percentage of funds from out of the plan outlays, you are actually freezing this money and not making it available for other schemes. To that extent, there will be shortfall on many fancy schemes for which bureaucracy will make big noise. The resistance will basically come from the bureaucracy. Except non-lapsability, all of the three are very much addressed. That out of the plan, certain portion equivalent to the population proportion has to be set aside. That is a major step forward. That is there very much in the Act. Mandates a separate budget account 789, 796, so that money cannot be diverted. There is a provision in the Act that this money cannot be diverted to other schemes. Copies of the budget release orders, all that information which is readily available with the public authorities, you have a right to ask under Right to Information Act. The way you and I look at the development for the scheduled castes or scheduled tribes will be upside down the way others look at it. So that makes all the difference. So our effort has to be a long drawn effort to sensitize everyone to converge with our perspectives on development of SC/STs, for which lot of lobbying, lot of education, lot of sensitization is needed at appropriate forums, particularly in the assembly when such issues come up, when the bill is introduced or when the budget is introduced, whole lot of transformation can happen. I am committed to do that. I would like to take pains to really analyze how SCP TSP is being implemented and put pressure from the party to really see that the act is properly implemented. These are the two responsibilities I have taken on my shoulders, because I believe that it is not just the bureaucracy or officials who can make a difference. A political party, if it is clear about what it wants to do, if it is clear about how it wants to do, a political party also can usher in transformation, which is what has enthused all of us working in the SC department, and SCSP TSP will be our priority in this endeavor. Thank you very much.
And we also understand that after 63 years of Indian Constitution, that like we have fundamental rights, similarly the state has their own duty to do that. Article 46, which they are not yet implemented properly in terms of improving the economic and educational conditions of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes in this country. You have mentioned very well about the strategies and the challenges and what are the actions that civil society organizations should do. And your speech is giving us a work for us for following the following few months. And also, of course, we will not give up this whole task. We will bring out, somehow we will bring this legislation, SCP and TSP at the national level, as well as we will try our level best to the state level. And we are very much thankful to you.
Hello, telung ruala darang kan lena. Per quang ching chang zaya kan choi lai moye. Oi moi chuang mang kan lena zot lang ram nuan. I moi kan lena zot lang fiar tui thiang kan dona. Lang tin a thing tin zar moi le ro me azam kara. Per lang tin chang zai kan choi lai moi. Ôi môi chuông mang kan lên na dốt lang ram nuan. Sai in trôi về li la per quang trình trăng rem mi. Hey ya ram nuan vi dom thăng về mô. Tin lai lung môi vang lang tin ruang tin gió li. Tu na ero lim na tin ra mùa lăn liang dâu ta. I môi em căn dâu rằm buồn sang phía tuy thiang căn đồ na. Lang tin na thính tin zar môi lệ râu mây azam kara. Per quang trinh trăng zaya kan trôi lại môi. Ôi môi chuang mang kan lên na dâu la